Okay, hello. I am going to do this from start so you can see how I start it, what I do, and the actual weaving process. So the first thing I do is I get out enough wire to make what we call a flower because it looks like it has petals. And we do a four-sided flower. So I wrap it around my two fingers and I just get myself 4 loops. And then I trim it. I can't see because the camera's in the way. There we go. And then I just wrap around these ends to give it a little top bit here. Like that. And then I take this, wrap it around, gives me a little like anchor. And then I flare out the petals. So we've got 1, we've got 2, 3, and 4. And this is not that important. It's just going to be trash eventually. So it can be junk wire, old wire, scrap wire, whatever you've got. And get them so that they're a little bit even, because this is going to give us our shape at the top. Like so. Okay. And now I'm going to get out a length of wire that I'm going to use to weave with. And I'm going to do black. So I usually get out 2 arm lengths, but it's easier to use shorter lengths of wire at first. Sometimes I'll do 3, but usually I like to stick to 2. It feels like a good amount. And then I stick this through, this is the weaving wire, through the top of the flower, just to give it a little bit of an anchor, and then you wrap it around so it stays. And then my mandrel is a piece of brass piping I got at a craft store. And I like it just because it's smooth, so I feel like the wire slides against it easier. But yeah, I think we've talked before where Allen wrenches work, pencils, dowels are just fine. This is just my preference, and that is what I would do. Okay, so now to start, I find the corner I'm going to start with, and I align the wire with that corner of the flower. So I'm going to start there, and then my first loop is going to go right here. So I'm going to try to do this in the camera as much as I can. Forgive me if I suck. Not a normal thing for me. And then I'm going to go behind the 2 ends of the flower to make my first loop. Smooth it out a little bit. And then I use my finger to just kind of give it the shape I want. And then I pull it tight. And there's my first loop. Then I turn. I'm going to do the same thing again. Go behind these 2. Pull it through. Sorry about the dog hair. Corgi's butt just got brushed. Pull it around my finger again to give it the shape, and then pull it, and there it is. So there's our first 2 loops at the top. I'm going to go ahead and get the rest done here real quick so we can get into it, so I can show you what it looks like as I'm weaving. Okay, so the top is done. Now, what I do, and what I guess the school of Viking wire knit that I'm from does, is we do what's called a double stitch, which means that we go back every 2 stitches to set our next stitch. And that's just because we like to keep it pretty tight. That gives the end result a pretty strong chain. especially based on the gauge of wire you're using. So the thinner the gauge, the more stitches back you're going to want to do. So if I'm doing like a 28 gauge or a 30 gauge, I'm definitely going to want to make that a triple stitch. And that's going to give you a denser end product. And then you've seen the triple stitch 6-petal that I do, and those are very round and thick. And it's the same idea. So let's just get into this. So I've gone, I guess I should have shown, sorry about that. I guess I should have shown that. So I am behind now. I've gone behind my flower again. So now it is behind 2 stitches. And now I technically have 3 right here because you have the flower, your first black stitch, and the second black stitch. So I'm going to turn it again and go behind my double stitch. It's 2 stitches. Pull it through around my finger for shape, and then I tug it down a little bit, make sure it's behind that stitch there. We don't want it on top. If you do it on top, it can make your stitches look weird when you pull it down. You definitely want to make sure that it's looped behind that knot area and not in front of the one that it's going to be under. Directions are hard. Okay, so let's keep going a little bit here. Behind the flower. And this will be the last one we do behind the flower. There. So now we've got 3 stitches. We have the flower, black stitch, flower, black stitch, black stitch. So now I'm going to actually start just weaving against the black. So I go behind here. It's going to be a little weird at the top because the flower is wonky always and forever. So I've gone back behind my second knot because it's a double stitch. So I go between the 2 stitches here, pull it through around my finger to give it a little shape, tug it down, and I keep going. Double stitch behind, pull it through. There you go. You can see it's starting to come together here. And as you do the real stitches without the flower, it starts to look a little nicer. I definitely trim off a little bit at the top when I'm done because it's a little janky up where that flower was sometimes. You get some weird larger loops. There you go. I guess I should probably do it a little slower one of these times here so you can see what I'm doing. It's hard to look at both the camera and the piece. Okay, so there you go, behind, pull it through. I'll try not to move my hand too much this time. Pull it around my finger for the shape, and then pull it up and tighten it down. Alright, let me do a couple more here. Try and keep it as steady as I can. This is so weird. Okay. And this is a 24 gauge wire, which is my preferred general wire gauge. I used to do a lot of 26 as well, but the difference between a 26 gauge chain and a 24 gauge chain is so minimal that most people can't tell. And the amount of work that you have to do for 26 versus 24 is so much more. And you have to do so much more wire too. So we really prefer, and I think we really, gosh darn it. And of course I dropped the phone. So I'll stitch these pieces together. But where was I? Gauge of wire, 24, 26 gauge. We really, so we really only work in 24 gauge for the most part. We do some 22 gauge, which gives a thicker look to it, for people who like it chunkier. And sometimes we'll do, like two 24 gauge chains that we'll put together into a piece to give it a nice, like, double chain kind of look. Things like that. And I've done some 20 gauge. Actually, I think I need to do some 20 gauge. I think I've sold it. I'll do some 20 gauge weaving. It is rough on the hands. Definitely finger cramp territory. But some people, really like it to be thick and chunky. And so we like to have as many options as we can. Yeah, I don't think I have a ton of 26 gauge wire that I just don't use anymore. I generally use the 26 gauge for wire wrapping. So if I'm doing any like neat little doodly bits, that is the technical term, on a stone I'm wrapping or on the ends of a necklace, then I will use the 26 gauge instead of the 24 because it does wrap a little bit easier. And also the 28 gauge is really nice for that too. So just gonna keep going here a little bit. I feel like I should have memorized something to recite while I'm doing this so that it's not just me babbling or silence. I don't know if you can hear the birds. The birds are nice. There's a dog. Fezzy. Shh. Fezzy. Stop it. He's not going to stop it. Alright, so there you have it. I'm going to cut it there, but if you want me to do a little bit more, I'm happy to do so. I could just do some in silence and then put music over it, so it's not just me heavy breathing. If you want to see me do, a lot more at once. But yeah, there you go. That's how you start it, how you get going. And if you have any questions, just let me know.